Hello friends and fellow bibliophiles, welcome back to Kat's Novel Adventures. I'm here today to share with you what I read in March. My TBR for March was pretty ambitious. I planned on participating in 3 readathons along with my book clubs and some buddy reads that I had already been involved in since the beginning of the year, as well as trying to finish a book that I did not get to finish before the end of February. Despite not being able to complete everything on my TBR, I did have a terrific reading month. And that's okay if you don't get to everything. I really love how some booktubers describe their TBR more like a pile of possibilities. And I think if you have that mindset, it takes a little bit of pressure off if you don't get to everything that you want to read in a month. I mean, hopefully you can squeeze them in another month as the year progresses. One of the first readathons that I participated in was the Week of Weird that took place during the week of March 12th. It was a week-long event hosted by Krista over at Fiber Artsy and Jason at Jason's Weird Reads. I really enjoyed this event because I read short stories throughout this week, and I really want to read more short stories. I thought it was fabulous. I read books by some authors I have never tried before, like Shirley Jackson, Stephen Graham Jones, H.P. Lovecraft, Octavia Butler, and then I also read 2 stories by authors I have previously either listened to on LeVar Burton Reads or have read over time, and that was Kenneth Yu as well as Stephen King. I heard through the grapevine that they may be doing another Week of Weird in September. So I'm really looking forward to that because, like I said, I had a really great time. I did a totally separate review on the stories that I read for that readathon. So if you want to check that out, I will leave a link in the description or try to put a little card up at the top where you can check that video out if you have not already. In addition to the 6 terrific short stories that I read for Week of Weird, I also completed 8 books. Of the 8 books that I read, 5 of them were for the Middle Grade March Readathon, which was hosted by Krista at Books and Jams, Amanda at The Curly Reader, Katie at Life Between Words, and Jenna of Jenna Reads and Writes on Instagram. It was my first middle grade March and I had a blast. I read 5 fantastic books, which were The Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling, Vacancy by K.R. Alexander, The Voyage of the Frog by Gary Paulson, Otter by Catherine Applegate, and A Rover Story by Jasmine Walger, which was also the group read for the month. I did a separate video all about my feelings about these books, so if you want to check that out, I will leave a link in the description below as well as those little cards above. It really was a wonderful event. The books that I read really were heartwarming and I had a good time. I was introduced to some new authors and I have some new favorite middle grade books. I plan to read 2 books for March Mystery Madness, but I failed epically with that readathon and I'm pretty bummed out because I was really hoping to get to my first Agatha Christie mystery for this year. I was only going to read for 2 of the prompts, which was Rinse and then Repeat. So for Rinse, I had chosen The Unexpected Guest. This was a recommendation from my kindred spirit, Halko, and I was not able to get to it in March, so it went over to my April TBR for Old School April. And for the repeat prompt, I had chosen The Secret of the Old Clock, which is the first in the Nancy Drew mystery series. And I wasn't able to get to that either. And I put this on my TBR for Old School April as well. While we're talking about the books I didn't get to read for March Mystery Madness, I might as well let you know which other 4 books I didn't get to by the end of March. And the first one is Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. I really wanted to read this for the Around the World in 80 Days readathon, and I couldn't squeeze it in. So hopefully during the summer I'll be able to read about Phileas Fogg's travels. I mean, the summertime is a perfect time to travel, so why not read about someone's travels? The next book is Goodnight, Mr. Tom by Michelle Magorian. This is for the FOMO Book Club. This is their March-April selection. I wanted to read it for middle grade March because it is a middle grade book. However, I could not do it, and I put it on my April TBR. It remains to be seen if I will be able to read it and complete it in April. I also did not get to finish Agatha Christie, An Elusive Woman, which is the biography of Agatha Christie, so it was carried over till April. And then I started a buddy read with my friend Mary at Bookin' Through Life. If you have not checked out our channel, please do, because she is the sweetest lady and she's very funny and I love watching her content. But we started The Midnight Library by Matt Haig and we finished it in April, and I will talk more about it in my April wrap-up. Let's dive into the last 3 books that I finished in the month of March. And the first one is Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. This was the January-February selection for the FOMO Book Club. I wasn't quite finished it at the end of February, so it carried over into March. This was my introduction to Daphne du Maurier, and I was not disappointed. The story is about Mary Ellen, who ends up having to go live with her Aunt Patience and Uncle Joss at Jamaica Inn after her mother dies. She promises her mother that she will go live with her Aunt Patience. And Mary's there not too long before she discovers that her Aunt Patience has married a very unpleasant person. He's very rude, he's very crude, and he is not very respectful to women. But Mary decides that she's going to stay on because she wants to help her Aunt Patience, and she really wants to try to get her Aunt Patience out of this situation as well. I enjoyed the story for its suspenseful atmosphere. It has gothic vibes. It's very gloomy setting. It's dark. There's mysterious characters. In fact, you could say Jamaica Inn is one of those mysterious characters as well because it plays its part in the story. I admired Mary for her independence and her gumption and the way she was willing to stand up to the men in this story because they clearly are not very respectful to women. There is a romance, and I was a little, well, I wasn't really wild about the romance because of course Mary falls for someone who is not a really great character either. And while I pretty much figured the ending was going to be the way it was going to be, I did enjoy all the twists and turns that got us there. It was a 4-star read for me, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who has not read any Daphne du Maurier. I was really pleased with it, and I can't wait to read more of her work. The next book I want to talk about is a book that I buddy read with my sister. We started it in January and would read a chapter at a time and then meet on Zoom and discuss the chapter and maybe see where the chapter could apply in our own lives. It is a personal development book, and it is The Subtle Art of Not Caring by Mark Manson. And it is a counterintuitive approach to living a good life. And I was actually pretty surprised about this book, considering its title and considering how the first chapter started off. I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to handle all of the language that this man likes to use. As you can see, I changed the title a little bit because to some people it is offensive to throw that word around, and I don't want to offend anybody. I will say the book was pretty good considering that aspect of it. I don't think I needed to be hit over the head a million times with that word, but I will say I did have some valuable takeaways from it, and let me share those with you. One of the things that it did make me do was to kind of pause and think about, what do I care about in my day-to-day life? Are there things that I'm caring a little bit too much about that are not that significant in the grand scheme of things? It also opened my eyes about other people in my life and what they care about and what causes them to care so deeply about certain things that I might find are a little more trivial. And it really does have to do with what's going on in your life, just in general. There are some people who maybe don't have as much going on in their life, and so they tend to care about things that, you know, you just kind of feel like, well, I mean, that's a life event. That's something that happens day to day. It's not anything that I should get myself all out of sorts about. But it really does help you acknowledge that not everybody is in the same place that you are, and the things that they care about are fueled by what is going on in their own personal lives. Some other aspects of the book that resonated with me is that happiness can come about through problem solving. There's a value in suffering, that we need to distinguish between good and bad values. Also, failure is a way forward, and the do something principle is really beneficial. One point that Mark Manson makes that I found interesting and really does make sense is that instead of motivation inspiring action, take action to inspire motivation. This philosophy basically goes along with the do something principle. And he says that if you're trying to make a change in your life, instead of just sitting around waiting to become motivated, take some kind of action, no matter how small it is, and then look at what the reaction is to that action, and that will motivate you to go even further. And hopefully you'll make the necessary changes that you want to make in your life. I did give The Subtle Art of Not Caring a 3.5, and that is basically because there were a couple of chapters I think could have been better explained to get the points across by the author. And also, I did not care for the excessive profanity. I didn't think it was necessary to give good information to the readers by using that word over and over again, or like for shock value. Overall, I do think it is a good personal development book and worth a read if you like these type of books. The last book that I read in March was Tranquility by Tuesday, written by Laura Vanderkam. It is a personal development book about time management strategies. I was really excited about reading this book, so much so that I put it on my 23 for 2023 list. It's actually number 20. I just wasn't anticipating reading it so soon into the new year. I actually started reading it in January, and that was because Laura decided to host a challenge on her blog, and I wanted to participate in the challenge. I also, my friend Liz, participated with me on the challenge as well, and I documented that challenge on my channel. So if anybody's interested in hearing about the challenge and seeing how I did with the 9 rules, please check those videos out as well. I am kind of partial to this book because I happen to be one of the participants involved in the time study to collect the data for the book, and so I was very curious to see how Laura took all of that information and turned it into a book. And of course, I think Laura did a great job. She actually broke the book up into 3 parts, and they are Calm the Chaos, Make Good Things Happen, and Waste Less Time. And the 9 rules are broken up into those 3 parts. I think the rules are very easy to implement and they kind of build on each other. And the whole focus is for you to be able to do more enjoyable things in your life, to carve out that time, because most of us do have more time than we think we have. If you do time tracking for a week, you will discover that for yourself. I enjoyed reading Tranquility by Tuesday. I gave it 5 stars. It really was fun to be able to read it along with doing the Tranquility by Tuesday challenge. I really do like the rules in this book, but I do have some personal favorites. For example, One Big Adventure, One Little Adventure, Create a Backup Slot, Take One Night for You, Effortful before effortless. I will eventually do a wrap-up video of my Tranquility by Tuesday challenge experience where I go into a little more detail about my favorites and what I'm continuing to work on as far as carving out more time so that I can be a better time manager. I do recommend this to anyone who would like some time management strategies and enjoy personal development books and want to incorporate some more fun in their lives. That's a wrap on my March reads. I hope you enjoyed hearing about what I read, and we'll check out the other 2 videos, The Week of Weird, where I go in more depth about the short stories I read, as well as my middle grade March wrap-up video, where I go into more depth about those middle grade books. But talking about middle grade March, I hosted a giveaway and I announced it on my middle grade March video. Now that giveaway has ended. However, I have some winners to announce. There were actually 6 people who showed interest in the book I was giving away. It's called The Insignificant Events in a Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling. I have decided that all 6 of you are going to get a copy. I know I had 5 to give away. I just have to go ahead and get an extra one because I didn't want one person to be left out. So the winners of my middle grade March giveaway are Halko, Jennifer Smith, Andee at Andee Heart Books, M at Dark Violet Dreams, Kristine at C Crits Read, and Linda the Gamer Girl. Congratulations to all of you. You'll need to get in touch with me and let me know where I can mail your book. My email will be in the description below. It is catloyacano@gmail.com. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. I really do appreciate you stopping by. Until next time, stay amazing and be adventurous.